day 7 here with Steelers OTAs. I guess it's day 8, but the day 7 was Steelers spending the day at Kennywood, where they couldn't ride the own Steelers-themed roller coaster.
And we didn't go, so it's day 7 for 8, but it's the 8th OTA.
It's Nick Farabaugh, Alan Saunders, as usual, here at the Steelers practice report. I'll tell you what, we talked to less people today, but that's because there was really one huge story today, and that was Cam Heyward is back at Steelers OTAs. Why was he back, Alan? I talked to him amongst, a sea of reporters today. Why is he back? Because he felt like he should be back. That's really why. He felt, that leadership was needed here, that, he was just missing out on too much not being here, and it doesn't seem like they're making the traction with the contract situation that it seems like, he said, certainly I would be shocked if I was on the field tomorrow and I signed a contract. So they're a ways away from the contract being signed, Alan. And I got a lot more out of that from Cam. He thinks he can be at his height a top 5 player still. Talked about how Mike Tomlin and him have talked about how his game lends itself to longevity because he's a power player and those guys can play a long time. Pointed to Calais Campbell as a really big kind of example of a guy that has played long into his career, even can approach 40. He thinks he has 3 more years left, wants security. Didn't really give an approximate value of what he wants, but when he was asked what he wants out of a contract, he wants security and he wants a guy that he feels like he's valued at the position, which can mean a bunch of different things. I don't know if that means 20-year, where that means. So,
guaranteed money,
right.
So that kind of thing.
That is a wide range, Alan, but doesn't seem like they're close, but seems like Cam is here. But he did not rule out when asked, would you hold in training camp? He would not rule that out. Said he hasn't really thought about it that far ahead, but did not say outright no to that notion.
Yeah, I thought he looked good out there today for not having practiced. And really, the other thing interesting, he said that the surgery that he had this offseason sort of prevented him from having another one. That was the idea.
Yeah.
So I think people have this misconceived notion about it. Cam Heyward has been historically extremely healthy. He basically had one injury in the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, that was the high ankle and then that, right?
Yeah, so there's no reason in my mind that he can't play 2 or 3 years. Now, as far as valuing him as a top 5 player at the position, that's a stretch to me. I think I would want to see it on the field. Not to say that he can't, but I think I would want to see it on the field if I'm the Steelers. I'm not surprised that they're not that close. We'll see where things go. It wouldn't totally shock me if they get a deal done, but I think him coming back is certainly the idea of not practicing is that you don't want to have a minor injury screw up the negotiations, right? You don't want to get hurt and then have that be the reason that things fall apart. If things aren't that close, then there's no reason not to be here. So, yeah, I think he's telling the truth there, and that I think they're still pretty far apart.
I do too, which I think speaks that he wants a nice chunk of change. Steelers don't want to give him that. 35 years old. He acknowledged it. There's just not much history for guys this old getting big-time deals. You don't see 35-year-olds re-upping for another big-time contract, but he feels like he's deserving of one. And the Steelers might not, after the season. They want to see kind of how he looks maybe in training camp and get into that a little bit before they pay him. And I don't even know, man. Is he even extension number 1 on their list? They have so many. We know James Daniels isn't on that list because of what he said to you.
I think Pat Freiermuth might be.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if they're talking, Freiermuth first before Heyward, or Najee Harris or Jalen Warren. There's just so many candidates for extensions this year. So is Cam Heyward even on the top of their list? He says that there has been communication, so there is an open kind of conduit of communication, but does not mean he is priority number 1 on their list. I think it might be Pat Freiermuth, as you said. So we'll kind of see how that continues to develop. Cam Heyward's back here, though. He said he's going to be here for minicamp. He'll be in Latrobe, so even if he does hold in at Latrobe, he will be there. So that'll be a big for the locker room to kind of coalesce there. But you also talked to 2 guys today, 2 wide receivers specifically, Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson. This was actually the first time we have been able to talk to Van Jefferson since he signed in Pittsburgh. So what was it like talking to Van, and what did he say?
Yeah, cool. Very well-spoken guy. Clearly a veteran, clearly understands kind of the role. Said he's motivated. Talked a lot about Arthur Smith and how he feels like he kind of knows what to expect now. Got traded to Atlanta in the middle of the season last year, but kind of has an idea of what to expect now and feels like he can really hit the ground running. I talked to him and Calvin Austin kind of about the same thing about, look, we've been talking about it. Me and Smitty have been talking about an afternoon drive. I feel like the whole fan base has been talking about how this team needs a wide receiver. And I asked both those guys, hey, what what are you hearing and what do you feel about that? And they both said, they're motivated by it. Calvin Austin was very outspoken and said, look, we hear it and there's nothing we can do about it, but you're darn right it motivates us. And like whether they bring somebody in or not is out of our control, but we're going to do everything we can here to make it so they don't have to. And I thought that was good to hear from those guys. And Calvin's had really good OTAs, man. Talked to him today very specifically about being used as more of a red zone weapon. When you think of him, you think, okay, natural fit in the slot, because of his size and his quickness, and you think certainly his speed can be a top off the defense kind of guy. We saw it at times last year. Red zone to me is a little bit more of a wonky fit, right? I mean, that's not where you see a lot of things with little guys. He was out there today, did some good work in the red zone, and he talked to me about what's been the key to that success. He said, you got to make that short area quickness really count. You got to really hone in on those route running, and then it's about being on the exact same page. And he said, the professionalism and the experience of a Russell Wilson has really shown through in that area, and he feels like he's really been able to pick up a lot just from doing what his quarterback is telling him to do.
I just think he's quicker, more efficient. Last year, I felt like it was a lot of wasted movement in his routes. He's quick, but he would have that foot fire release, and it felt like he would take 2 or 3 steps that allowed guys to kind of get up to him. Or when he's cutting off routes, on comebacks or curls, it's just 1-2 now. It's like real quick. He plays to his speed now in his routes, and I think you're seeing that. I think clearly, honestly, he's been either the second or third best wide receiver here.
I'd say second, and I'm not even sure it's close. I think it's closer between him and George than anyone has been to him.
I agree. They're still easing in guys like Roman Wilson, so we'll kind of see more of Roman Wilson in camp and probably even mini camp next week. But Calvin, what he has done has been pretty darn good so far, and we'll kind of see where that goes. Let's just stick to one more wide receiver topic. Brandon Aiyuk is not at 49ers mandatory mini camp. This is kind of something that was bookmarked, right? How serious was Aiyuk going to be in his holdout? Was it just going to be an OTAs thing and then show up, or not? Well, he's going to be fine now on $100,000 per day. Over that, actually. He's not there now. And you talked about how they hear the noise. This is only going to add fuel to that fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're of the hope that the Steelers trade for Brandon Aiyuk, this is kind of the way it needed to happen. Things need to get contentious because the 49ers don't want to trade him. They don't need the cap space this year. They can certainly let him play out the last year of his contract, try to win a Super Bowl in 2024, and then let him go off into the sunset, grab that comp pick coming back, and be very happy with that. So I think for there to be a trade, things have to get ugly. And I guess if you're hoping for that, this is probably step one down that road. I'm not sure I would make a big deal about that first step, but it is the first one.
It's the first step, but we'll see how the receivers here for the Steelers stand out. So far, it's been Calvin Austin. Folks, as always, thanks for watching. Nick Farabaugh, Alan Saunders here. We will be back on Wednesday and Thursday and the next week as well for mandatory minicamp. Make sure to check out stuff at SteelersNow.com. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Steelers Afternoon Drive coming soon to the channel. Thanks for watching.